Hello everybody, my name is Sam K and I'd like to welcome you guys to a Sam Tech Talk. Today I am going to be talking about particularly Shure SM-58 ripoffs. And if you guys are interested, the microphone that I'm using today to record all this amazing audio for you guys is the Donner BC87. What I'm going to be talking about today are obviously Shure SM-58 knockoff microphones. The microphones that are trying to emulate the success of the Shure SM-58 through its style design or just blatantly ripping it off. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So there are some notable changes that you can tell whenever looking at a Shure SM-58, of course, but these won't be noticeable to first timers. So the first thing that I wanted to do, I asked Sai about this and it kind of gave me some perspective on, you know, what a video of this like needs to look like. So I'm going to show you guys a series of microphones and I'm going to cover up any, you know, obvious markings that one is, you know, one thing and the other is another thing. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. So I'll just cycle through here for you guys. Alright, obviously that was quite a few microphones. So what I want you guys to guess is which one was the Shure SM-58, which one was a Shure SM-58 blatant ripoff, which one was a knockoff, which one was the Shure SM-48, and which one is a knockoff that doesn't try to be a blatant ripoff. Give you guys a second to answer down in the comments. Do not skip ahead in the video. If you guessed that number one was the Shure SM-58 knockoff, you are correct. This is a Pyle PD Mic 58 microphone that I actually am familiar with. If you guessed that number two was the Shure SM-48, you are correct. This is the Shure SM-48, the younger brother to the SM-58. If you guessed that number three was the blatant Shure ripoff, you are correct. This is the one that is the blatant Shure ripoff. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This one doesn't look anything like a Shure SM-58. Let me show you the packaging. This is the packaging that the blatant ripoff comes in. Right there, SM-58, legendary vocal microphone. That's pretty scummy, I'm not gonna lie. This one is weird because it has an on and off switch. However, it doesn't seem to actually be an on and off switch. It seems to be a on switch and a off dynamic, which indicates to me that this is actually a condenser, which is weird. Why would they be trying to pass off condenser as a Shure SM-58? I'm not entirely sure. Alright, so if you guessed number four was the Shure SM-58, you are correct. This is the Shure SM-58. And if you guessed that the last one was the Shure SM-58 knockoff, that wasn't a blatant ripoff, you would be correct. This is the Way Dynamic SM-58. It actually says SM-58 right on the thing, which I'm pretty sure is like somewhat illegal. But so is this packaging. So what can you do? Which, yeah, looking at this packaging, that actually is a Shure SM-58 picture. But what you get is not a Shure SM-58. So what are some of the telltale signs of a SM-58 not being real? Now, of course, the SM-48 is also made by Shure, and it's kind of their version of the knockoff. It is actually still very high quality. I would say that if you're gonna get anything that is a, you know, knockoff Shure SM-58, get the SM-48. $35, really high quality. My friend SciSpy uses one, and he said that he loves it. So I indeed agree that this is an amazing microphone for $35. Intense, amazing. I'm really glad that, you know, Shure made a lower cost alternative. These are great if, you know, you're trying to mic up 9, 10, 11 people. Be great for a starter podcast, that kind of thing. But the first gripe that I do have is you may be able to see a small seam right there. So instead of stamping or printing something on the actual metal itself, it seems like Shure just decided to have a piece of like tape or something and wrapped it around the neck of the microphone. The actual SM-58 has it stamped or printed right onto the metal. It is no tape in sight. The Way Dynamic seems to have the same situation where it is a piece of tape of some sort, and of course the blatant knockoff has nothing. The other thing to note is the ball basket. This basket is rather small, as you can tell. This is a small, rotund, meaning round, basket. Very, very small, and it's one of the things that I think makes the Shure SM-58 so well liked, is that this is not a super big, bulky looking microphone. Whenever you use it, it is not going to be covering up your entire mouth. Unlike the SM-48, where you put it in front of your mouth, and now all of a sudden, your mouth is pretty much gone. The SM-48s is notable because it is a little bit more oblong. However, it is significantly more round than the knockoffs. So here is the Pyle PD Mic 58. As you can see, it has this really oblong shape to it. And it looks really strange, honestly. Same deal with the blatant Shure knockoff. Really oblong shape, though this one does have more of a round symmetry to it. It doesn't have that kind of droopy oblong look. And the Way Dynamic has that same similar droopy oblong look that the PD mic does. One other thing that you may have noticed there is what color is the grill, and is it a semi-matte or a chrome finish? A good Shure microphone has this semi-matte, and it is a gray color. The PD mic is straight up a chrome. They're not even trying to disguise it. The blatant Shure knockoff is a semi-gloss, and it is also a chrome color. Now the Way Dynamic is a shade too dark, actually, though it is a semi-matte. The other thing is the handle. So one of the most notable things that I think makes things very obvious is how the handle was created. Now, Pyle seems to have cheaped out on their handles over the years. I actually used to own one of these Pyle PD Mic 58s, and I remember it having a nicer handle than this. But this is obviously painted on. It is not powder coated, which, by the way, that means that they're actually skimping on even more, because powder coating it's literally to the tune of cents. Like, I'm talking maybe 5 cents to powder coat instead of paint. So they're actually saving cents by painting instead of powder coating. I imagine that this chrome finish is also probably not a custom design. It is probably just a cheap windscreen ball basket. So here is the actual deal. This is powder coat. This is obviously powder coated. It also has this matte look to it, whereas the PD mic has this semi-gloss look to it. This is a very matte finish on the handle. One thing you'll notice about Shure is that they're not about frills or looks or fashion. Everything is designed to be rugged. It is designed to look like it's there to do business. The Blaine Shure knockoff also opts for no powder coating instead of going with paint. And this one is a little bit even more glossy. I would say that it is nearing territory of being actual gloss. I can actually see my reflections inside of this one, where the PD mic, I can only sort of see them. Now the Way Dynamic actually opted for a powder coating matte finish, which is funny. This is actually the cheapest of all the microphones, but they got the color wrong. It opts for this kind of slate gray instead of this charcoal look that the Shure microphones go for. So one last thing is internally. There are a couple things that you can look for internally. So there's this metal, this like grated metal that circles around on the SM-58. And it kind of is covering some important componentry that's underneath there. Additionally, this part where the actual diaphragm is a kind of grayish color. Now, firstly, this is the Blaine Shure knockoff, which I'm not even sure why they tried. It doesn't even look the same underneath. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why would they even advertise it as an SM-58 clone? And once again, the Way Dynamic actually gets it the closest. This metal is less seen. And not only that, it looks pretty decent. The diaphragm is also very close to the proper color. It is a shade darker though. And lastly, we have the PD mic 58, which is the most disappointing of them. This metal is obviously like a piece of tape of some sort that is just taped on there. Shameful, really shameful. The head is also black, which it looks a little bit like the inside of an SM-58, but if you are looking particularly, look for stuff like that. So one other thing that I kind of only touched upon is weight. Now, Shure microphones have a very common knowledge that they are heavy for their size. The SM-48 is a lot heavier than the SM-58. The SM-58 is a physically smaller microphone, so I think that contributes to some of it. The SM-48 is a bigger microphone in overall, so it is a little bit heavier. I would say maybe about 10 grams heavier. It's not a whole lot. The Blaine Shure knockoff is the heaviest. However, one thing that I am noticing is that it is a very unbalanced amount of heft. So with the SM-58, I feel a very balanced amount of heft out of this. I don't feel like it's tilting towards one side too much, and the SM-48 is the same story. The SM-48 does tend to have a little bit more top heaviness simply because of where the transformer is. This is very unbalanced. It's very bottom heavy. The top feels like it weighs nothing. And if I turn it upside down like this, it still feels very heavy. You can even see it trying to rotate itself if I just give it a minute. The Way Dynamic almost gets the weight right. It's a little light, and I think that's because there is no transformer inside of there. but they must be using heavier alloy metals or something like that to get this weight, because the PD Mic 58 feels like a toy by comparison. Again, there's no transformer, which, if you're curious, there is a transformer inside of the SM-58, and that fitting is real tight. The other thing you may notice is the green and yellow cables. Now I'm going to show you inside of the Shure knockoffs. Yeah, they don't have those yellow and green cables. However, there are Shure knockoffs that have gotten wise about this particular phenomenon. So watch out for those. So what can I tell you? Well, honestly, the Shure SM-58 is such a magnificent microphone. It's obvious that it's going to get knockoffs. But the thing is, guys, if it seems too good to be true, there is no such thing as an SM-58 clone that is cheaper. The best that you're going to get is the SM-48. This is a legitimately good microphone, though it does stand up on its own. And if you're gonna go with something that gives you a 58-like experience, go with the 48. Don't go with this stuff. Don't support this stuff. I'm ashamed to even have put money towards this stuff. It is shameful, and it is obvious, and it is blatant, and it is lazy. So save your money off of this stuff. If you need an extra 15 bucks to get the SM-48, I highly recommend waiting. The SM-58 is of course $100. Not an insignificant amount of money. So yeah, get the SM-48 if you are wanting a Shure SM-58 like experience. But anyway, that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I will be reviewing all of these microphones specifically, including the SM-58 and the SM-48. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give a big thumbs up. Check out some content I create, including the links that you'll see at the end of this video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.